Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Kimberly Levy. I am in studio with my friend Sara, and she is going to talk to us about Maman. I am so overjoyed to finally have you here in studio with me. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited. So my friend Sara Tele Samami, is that how you say her last name?
Samimi, yeah.
Samimi. She was on my podcast. You guys probably saw. She's an estate planner. She's beautiful. She's everything. She was my very first mom friend, and she was like, you have to meet my other friend, Sara. And when we met, I was just captivated by you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Sarah's awesome. So it means a lot to have a high recommendation from her.
Yes, it does. I don't know what she said about me, but I'm thrilled that she somehow coerced you to coming. Okay, so can you tell us about your organization, Maman? Because you're doing a lot of incredible things.
Yes.
And I'm very in awe of you.
So I feel like you need to know how Maman started.
How did it
start? So my mom passed of cancer when I was younger. And she was a nurse, and she was always giving. And, you know, she made it a point to teach us that you always help those in need, help whenever you can. So that's something that we saw. So when she passed away, I would see people who didn't have the support that I had growing up. When my mom was sick, we had 8 aunts and uncles, a team of friends who would take her to chemo, someone would grocery shop, someone would make sure we're okay. And I noticed other families didn't have that. So when she passed, I wanted to pay it forward. So that's how Maman was born. Maman was born out of a desire to pay it forward, maybe even out of grief. Maybe it was processing grief and loss and giving to others what I wish I had at that moment, which is being mothered. So the name Maman means mom in Farsi. So it's not just a nod to my mom, but it's literally mothering the community. And we started off helping exactly those. There's a family who the child was in, they had a baby in Children's Hospital. She had 3 other kids at home. The husband was working and she was at Children's Hospital. So I would just make sure their refrigerator was stocked. The kids were okay. Did they have play dates? You know, I didn't even know them. I saw the boy had like tape holding up his glasses. And it's not necessarily because they couldn't afford to take him, but there's no time. You're trying to make sure your baby survives.
Yes.
So I got volunteers to take him to the eye doctor, like little things like that, you know. There's another time where that same family, the mom had to have surgery. And now you have 2 people in the hospital and the dad has to work. And so we made sure we had volunteers with the baby in the hospital at all times, people that like we knew and trusted.
Wow.
Making meals, making sure the community supports them, groceries. And it just kept on going. And then it turned into 3 foster kids that we knew in the community. And then October 7th, we decided to help Israel, because that's who needed help at that time, and send humanitarian aid. And we just blew up after that.
Oh my gosh. So first I have chills all over my arms and my legs. I'm not cold. I'm just like, that is just like gets me to my soul. So backing up to your mom.
Yeah.
How old were you when she passed?
She was diagnosed when I was 17 and she passed when I was 23. And I know everyone's like, you're so lucky, and that's called a survival rate for the kind of cancer that she had, but it wasn't quality of life.
Oh, I know about that. My mom struggled with cancer for 5 years, and I've walked that path also. But man, 17, your mom's diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And 23, you lose her. You're a child. You're a baby.
They said she had 6 months to live when she was diagnosed. So it was like a miracle that she survived that long.
Thank goodness that, you know, she did just to get whatever you could from those moments with her, as dark as I know those days can get. It's sort of like that double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when your mom was sick?
My mom just passed 2 years ago, and I'm about to be 42. So when I was 40, I turned 40, and then I lost her a couple months later. And it's crazy because when you're younger, you just assume everybody's ready when their parents pass, like adults are ready because that's the circle of life.
Yeah.
I'll say it like this. When my mom was in her final weeks, my dad and I had a moment upstairs. I was getting something for my mom because she couldn't go upstairs anymore. And my dad was up there and he looked at me and he was like, you know, my mom was 95 when she died. And he started crying. He's like, and I still miss her to this day. And I looked at him because now my dad's 81. And I looked at him and I realized I had the epiphany. I had the realization, and I looked at him and I said, we're never ready to lose our parents, are we? And he's like, it's never enough time, no matter how old you are. And I didn't know that when, I didn't know that until that moment. So I just can't even believe that you lost your mom when you were 23. I mean, I'm just so sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. It's hard. I feel like there's a certain shift that happens when you lose your mom at a young age. I feel like part of who you are is who you are in relation to your mom.
That's right.
Like, am I like her in these aspects? Am I not like her? It's like
she's your North Star.
She's your North Star.
I mean, if you have, and I always say this, and I don't know you and I don't know your mom well enough, but I can sense it just from your passion for what you've done with this grief. But I will say this, another epiphany I had is like, I don't conceal my sadness about my mom. Like when I need to cry, I will cry, and I don't say, oh, I'm sorry. I don't say that. I don't apologize for my grief ever. And here's why, is because what I realized is I'll say it like this. I realized when she was dying, a lot of people don't have a mom that they love or that was good to them, or that they didn't get along. There's a lot of people that don't have a good relationship with their mom. And my mom was my everything. She was my best friend, my soulmate, my everything. And so when I'm crying about her, what I realized is that it's a reflection of her greatness. The pain, the depth of the pain,
the love,
comes from her greatness. It's a reflection of, because she was so awesome. That's why this hurts so badly. Like it's so heartbreaking. Is that, I mean, I'm sensing from you, considering that you've built all of this based on your pain.
Yes.
Whether you did it consciously or not, like that's a reflection of how amazing your mom was.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Does that resonate?
And she did a lot, and there's a lot of stuff that we found out she did after she passed.
Really?
There was like a family, I ordered food from like a catering, and the guy who worked there came out and said, your mom used to bring medications for my kids. And I was like, oh. And she's like, yes, they said it was samples at your dad's office because my dad's a physician. And I'm like, okay. And I went to my dad's office and I'm like, Dad, they can't afford the medication, whatever. Like, let me get some samples. And he's like, Sarah, they don't sample these medications. Meaning my mom was purchasing them and giving it to them, saying it's a sample so they wouldn't feel bad. So many of these stories came out. And I don't have the foresight to think about those things, to do those tiny things. But this is how I know to give and to pay it forward and to continue her legacy, not just bringing in her light into the world, but really filling my soul. And I see your tears.
It's very clear. Like, you are an extension of your mom.
Thank you.
You are her legacy.
Thank you.
Like your heart, I mean, through your actions, your heart, I don't know what she looked like physically or anything, but that is like so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So like, what a way to honor her. And it's obviously through your, like you just said, it's filling to your soul as well, but what a beautiful testament to her. And the fact that she did that is, I mean, what a beautiful person.
Thank you.
To do that.
Thank
you. Like, think about it. Like, that's really remarkable that she would do that.
I've realized that there's so many of us that we just want a path or a way where we could give, where we could help one another, because we feel that human connection, and it's kind of almost lost now with the social media and everything, but we long for that.
Yes.
And I've realized through Maman, I've created that for other people as well. So other people have come up and said, thank you that I'm able to now have a platform to do this, to do that. So
that is unbelievable. And that's the entire ethos of my company, is connection, it's impact. When she died is when I started this company.
Wow, no way.
Yeah, because I was making a lot of money and it was very easy to just stay in that. And I was like, it's not enough, because when you die, as you know, no one cares how many purses you have, what's in your bank account, what car you drive, all of that goes away. Yeah. It literally all goes away. It's your impact. It's your connection. It's your legacy of what you imparted on others. Yeah. This is just unbelievable. Okay, so tell me more. Tell me more about Maman.
Okay, so, well, what do you want to know? I feel like there's so many different things that we do in Maman. We have about 500 active volunteers.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's pretty phenomenal. We have
Wow.
volunteers here. We have volunteers abroad. We started a chapter at UCLA that the kids started. It's an official club, Maman at UCLA. We have a teen division with over 10 high schools in the LA area, public and private, Christian and Jewish schools, all of it. So it's kind of nice. And the whole thing is paying it forward, finding ways to pay it forward while elevating your own consciousness.
Yes.
So when my mom passed away, I got into Kabbalah. I started studying Kabbalah. My uncle, my cousin, they teach Kabbalah. So it was just something that was in our family. My family was very spiritual. So there's hints of Kabbalah and hints of spirituality, of paying it back, of paying it forward, of bringing light into the world, of removing your own ego and connecting to other people, yourself, and to the creator that's infused within Maman. And I feel like people really feel that.
I love it. You know what's crazy is my dad was telling me that his grandfather was a rabbi, and my dad's dad would step in and do the thing, be the rabbi, the stand-in rabbi, when the grandfather couldn't go. So like my great grandfather. And then I guess my dad was telling me his father, who I never met because he died young of a heart attack. He would tell my dad that Kabbalah is like the highest form of spirituality and of the Jewish religion. And it's funny because my whole family's very spiritual. We're Jewish, but we're really more spiritual.
Yeah,
That's why I
get
always
it.
say, like, I pray in church. I'll pray in a mosque. I'll pray anywhere. I don't care.
It's the same God.
Anywhere I can receive blessings, I'm down or pray. Right.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's really interesting that you mentioned Kabbalah. Do you consume David Guillaume's content?
So David Gim is my cousin.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. He's my cousin.
I was going to say, because I listen to him and watch his content and I
He's
love it.
awesome. He's awesome.
He's your cousin?
He's my cousin. So he
my
was
gosh, that's
15 when I was 17.
insane.
Or yes, 14, 15 when I was 17. And after I got into the Kabbalah Center, I dragged him along with me. And he kept going, and he's awesome and he's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
My uncle also teaches Kabbalah, not his dad, another uncle.
Yes, really?
He's the one that actually got both of us into it.
Wow. Wow. I want to ask you a hard question
Yes,
because I
please.
feel like I'm like with the source, and I just want to ask the hard question because like I don't really know, but some people out there will say, well, Madonna's part of Kabbalah. It's a cult. Where does that come from? Like, why do people say Kabbalah is a cult? And
So we're going to distinguish the teaching of Kabbalah with any institution that teaches Kabbalah. So the Kabbalah Center is one place that teaches Kabbalah, and that's where Madonna went. So any issues that they have could be from the institution rather than from the teachings.
Right.
The teachings are just universal teachings that you could learn from anywhere.
Yeah, that was kind of what I like figured. I was like, it sounds like there could, like any religion or any, like, let's just say institution.
Yes,
There's
yes.
always going to be bad players and things that happen.
Always. Yes.
That doesn't necessarily indicate what the essence is meant to be teaching.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I never
Yeah.
did my research on it, so I really didn't know.
Yeah. So in college at UCLA, I started the Kabbalah Club at UCLA. I know, I don't know what I was thinking. And I started teaching at college, and then I stopped for a while. And a few years ago, some of the moms came up to me and they're like, look, you have this knowledge. We're interested. So I started teaching again in my house every Wednesday. Now it's every other Wednesday to a group of about 20 to 30 moms. And I just keep it small and private.
I love it.
Yeah.
For those out there that don't know what Kabbalah is rooted in, not to make this all about Kabbalah, but I think this is an important ethos of your company and what you're doing too, it seems, is what I'm getting. How can you summarize what Kabbalah is to someone that doesn't know what it is, or what are some key principles?
Yeah, sure. So Kabbalah is the ancient spiritual, how would I put it? It's the spiritual basis. It's the spiritual blueprint behind all the religions. It's the spiritual blueprint that existed before any religion existed. It came from a book called Sefer Yetzirah, which is the Book of Formation. And the underlying universal wisdom that's embedded in Kabbalah goes into, like all the other spiritual movements come from that. Like when you study Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sufism, all of that, you realize that all of that comes from this universal wisdom that is Kabbalah. And you have religions that are trying to, all of our religions, I believe, and I think many would argue the same, are trying to teach these spiritual lessons in a practical way for the layperson.
I love that. I love it. It's more about the universal principles,
100%,
and energetics and all of these things. I love it. I love David's content. He, it made me laugh the other day because I think he posted something like about like the power of a woman, and I was giggling because I'm like, I wonder if his mom put him up to this.
His mom is awesome. She used to actually babysit me in Iran before we left. Yeah, my parents were, my mom was a nurse. My dad was a physician. They couldn't leave Iran because of the war, so they needed medical personnel. And his family was one of the last families like that we're related to who were still in Iran. So she would babysit me while my dad was on call and my mom was in the hospital.
Wow.
Yes, so I have a very tight bond with her.
Crazy. Gosh, I'd love to talk to her and be like, what did you put him up to? Because he's always talking up women. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, job well done on that.
Totally.
So that's incredible. So that's another part of the spirit of Maman is the Kabbalah influence.
Yes.
That's fascinating. Okay. So you have your personal story with your grief journey and paying it forward. You have the ethos and foundation and guidance of Kabbalah. And how do you bring all of this together in terms of the way you communicate with your kids? How do you kind of teach them these lessons? How do you teach them giving? Because I think that's an important part of being a mom. I don't know that I'm doing a good job of that yet, but
I love that you asked that. So I always tell them, like, even when they were little and they had to share, instead of giving it like to my second child, for instance, I would, but let's say the second child, Maya, is asking Ella for something. Mm-hmm. I would tell Ella, hand it to her and I'll give you another one. So she's comfortable and she's practicing. And I would always tell them that every time you give, you get more. It's like a river, right? You don't want to be a swamp. You don't want to hold the water still. It has to flow. It has to be in flow.
Absolutely.
And the way you receive is by giving, because if I receive 1 cup, that's limited. But if I'm always pouring into other cups, I will receive infinite so that I could share infinite. So I teach them that. And then I also teach them that every time they don't react and they take a minute and pause, like, even if it's for a split second before they do whatever they're going to do, I tell them to imagine spiritual money going into their bank account. And that spiritual money would be good friends. Maybe it's at an age where they're in middle school and it's not being bullied. Maybe it's having your grades come easier to you, whatever it is. And I would literally like say to them, ching, 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 ching. So they have like an auditory visual thing to think about. And till this day, my middle child, who's now 17, when something will happen, she'll be like, Mom, I paused and I was just telling myself, ching, 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 ching. I'm like, great.
That is
We don't remember these things all the time, but if you remember them 1 out of 10 times, we win.
100%. You're teaching them so many good values. Can you adopt my 3 children?
I love you. Give them
They're
to me.
Finally all potty trained.
Oh, you have littles.
Well, my 4-year-old, she finally potty trained herself, but that took some time. I was like, she's going to get it. She's just being stubborn when she's ready.
No one goes to college wetting their bed.
Absolutely. I'm like, you're not walking down the aisle in diapers. And if you are, that's a great man. But I love this sort of subtle programming because these are some things that I'm just learning. Like this thing about flowing, I think is so big and so important.
Yeah.
Like, and even just to make it more materialistic for people out there, like one spiritual person I know talked about, money is energy. Mm-hmm. And it flows and it circulates. And when you come from scarcity, like I wasn't raised with a lot of money, and you know, just this idea of not holding on. Because when you're not raised with a lot, you tend to
Yes,
hold
to
on
hold
to
it, yeah.
things. And, you know, it's just the way you're programmed. Like you're like, oh my
Correct.
gosh, what I have, I got to protect it, right? And it's scarce. But when you can unwind that, or even pre-program like you're doing with your kids, to, you know, show like it flows, let it flow. Like
Yes.
tip the valet, tip the whoever helps you, like
Yes.
circulate the money. It, like you say, like it's going to come back around, and that's
Correct.
so important.
Yeah.
What other ways can we be circulating our energy, or like giving? Like what other? So there's money,
There's
obviously.
money. I always think of anytime you're talking to someone, like any interaction, any connection, am I adding value? And not am I adding value in a way where, ooh, look at me, I'm adding
Yeah.
value, but really like what does this person need to hear?
Yes.
Can I be the mouthpiece of the creator?
Yeah.
Can I move myself out of the way and kind of just let it flow through me rather than let me think with my limited brain what I need to say?
Right. 1,000%. That's why I think encouraging people to be authentic is so important, because all these masks that we put on ourselves, it actually is suffocating your ability to like, I mean, I don't know. I haven't studied Kabbalah, so I can't like say anything formally, but like for me, it feels like only when you're in your authentic purpose and self can you really be adding value and giving. That's actually the way we build
So
brands.
you know it intrinsically.
Yes.
So you're
Yes.
an intrinsic Kabbalist.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I am.
Because this wisdom is
Thank
not
you.
stuff that's foreign to us. We're actually relearning them. Your soul already knows this. All
Right.
of this already feels familiar.
It's funny that we started off this conversation before we started filming. And the first thing I said to you was, I really like it when people do plastic surgery. And now we're here.
And now we're here.
But, you
And
know,
there's room for all of it.
yeah. It's an and, not an or.
Yes.
There was this really funny reel and someone called me out about it. And I just think it's so funny. It's exactly what we're talking about right now. It was me, like, I guess it was a clip of me talking about like being your authentic self. And the comment was like, says someone that has more plastic surgery and filler to, and I would laugh. I would like responded. I was like laughing out loud. I literally laughed out loud. I was like, yes, I can be authentically me and be authentically in my plastic surgery glowing up era.
Yes.
Like two things can be true, and it just made me giggle. So anyway, thank you for those haters. Appreciate that. I just thought it was super funny. Okay, so tell me more. So Maman, how are young people participating? I love this idea that you've rolled it out to college campuses. I mean, that's huge.
They actually had David Guillaume come and speak at UCLA, I think about a month or two ago. And they planned it in a week. They had 75 students, which is, you know, for a college event, that's a big
Huge.
deal.
I would have been there if I knew about it.
Yeah. They're not drinking, they're not partying, they're like engaging in something to elevate their consciousness. So that was a big deal. It was nice.
Wow.
The UCLA group also did a lot for the fire relief. Maman did a lot for the fire relief. They also, what else have they done? We started a chapter on breast cancer. There's a girl who's on our board, and she overcame breast cancer, and she realized that it's really stigmatized in our community. And she wants people to feel comfortable, like, you're battling this, that's fine. You've survived breast cancer, that's fine. You don't have to hide it or be ashamed of it. So she started Koli Shah, which is the Pink Initiative. And the UCLA kids decided to make care packages and send them to women who are battling breast cancer. So that was awesome. I'm trying to think what else.
That is really awesome, because I remember when my cousin, she died at 34 of breast cancer. It was heartbreak. It was gut-wrenching. And I remember being like, the American Cancer Society and Susan G. Komen, they had some resources, but it wasn't like enough.
Yeah.
So
And it wasn't personal.
No.
Yeah.
It was very stringent and limited. So I just think that's really great.
Yeah. So then the teenagers, what they're doing is they decided they wanted to do something. And I'm like, go for it. They made their own board and they put together events. Like we had puppy yoga a month ago.
What is
really
that?
Cute. Yoga with puppies.
So it's like a spinoff of goat yoga. Have you seen that?
Yes, it's a spin-off of goat yoga. Exactly.
Let's go.
And they charged everyone, I don't know, however it was. They raised money and they sent it to people affected by war in Israel. And they,
Wow.
yeah. And I was like, sure. And we ran it through Maman and we found the community. And because our overhead is very limited and it's sponsored by a generous sponsor, everything is able to go directly to those who need help.
That's the best.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
It really is awesome. And the other thing I want to say is we had a situation, speaking of what you're doing for like a family that has kids or a child in a hospital. I mean, we had a situation with Charlotte, my daughter, when she turned 5, that it was almost like Hashimoto's, but it wasn't. It was kind of like right at the end of COVID, and it was COVID triggered. So like, I don't know still, like her eyes were bloodshot. Anyway, she was so sick that she literally, two of her primary care physicians, we had 2 different ones review, and they were like, you need to take her to Children's. And that experience of being in Children's hospital was gut wrenching. Yeah. Gut wrenching. Like there's not even words to describe the hell that you go through as a parent when your child is there. It's just like, I don't even have, like, I almost can't even talk about it. And thankfully Charlotte was fine.
Yeah.
But just like being trapped in a hospital, especially when you're under quarantine with your kid and like they're bored to tears and they're kids.
Yes.
Just you being able to absorb the logistical issues that come with that, that impact the whole family is such a big deal. It really is. Like, that's a really beautiful thing you're doing.
Thank you. You're saying the kid being in quarantine. Another thing that we did is we partnered with a friend of mine, started something called the Oscar Litwack Foundation. Have you heard about it?
No.
So I hate to bring up grief again, but she lost her 4-year-old son about 20 years ago. So she decided to make like not just toys, but distraction bags. That's what the word I was looking for kids who are hospitalized. And part of that is having a mobile play cart, a mobile playroom for those quarantined kids that can't leave their room to go to the playroom in Children's Hospital. This mobile cart goes from room to room so they can pick out their own toys to play with. And we do a lot of not fundraising, but having like schools get together and donate gifts, and then they package their gifts and then they can go and deliver it to the hospital. We've done a lot for them. And it's so nice to hear the feedback from the families saying that this really makes a difference.
Yeah, no, I can only imagine it does. And aren't there a lot of stringent requirements when you go into hospitals and toys and kids? Like they have to be new toys, right?
New toys, packaged. We can't do stuffed animals or anything stuff to be able to be wiped down.
What's the thing with stuffed animals? Oh, because they can attract bacteria.
Yeah. So, stuffed animals.
Yeah, because we had done some donating with our kids' preschool several years back where we brought in some trucks into UCLA, and I remember being confused by all the requirements.
Yeah.
So that was good education for that, but it makes sense. That is unbelievable. So you do, what do they call the carts? Distraction?
They're mobile play carts.
Oh, mobile play carts. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you're the most passionate about when you're doing these different campaigns, and like, what are things that you're gravitating towards in terms of like relief? Because it seems like you just want to give, and like, what causes, like, how do you even prioritize what causes you want to take on?
It was triage in the beginning. So it was triage with sending humanitarian aid. It was triage when I got a call from a friend who had made Aliyah to Israel. She moved to Israel and she was a therapist, psychotherapist. And she said, I'm going to volunteer my time at the Dead Sea hotels to help the kibbutz Be'eri community who are displaced there. And I said to her, what do you need to keep going? She's like, well, I'm not working. I need to be able to pay my expenses. So I was able to raise funds to cover her expenses so she could continue volunteering, because that was cheaper than paying per hour. And then she activated a group of friends who are also psychotherapists. So we started doing a lot of mental health support and seeing the impact of that, seeing the impact of people who went through, whether they're soldiers or whether they're Nova survivors or families of people who committed suicide, and talking to them and seeing them go from one extreme to the other, seeing them being either broken and then starting their own nonprofit, which we supported 2 survivors in doing so. And now they're helping other survivors and going around speaking and having their own, they opened a place in Tel Aviv where they're able to give therapy to other survivors. Seeing that has been the most gratifying because it's a ripple effect.
Yes.
We light your candle and now you're a torch lighting all these candles.
I love that. That is unbelievable.
So that is what I'm most passionate about. It's not the one-off impact. It's waking people up.
Right. Yeah. And empowering them to find their light again and give it.
And pay it forward. Yes.
And pay it forward.
Yes.
That is unbelievable. Before you got here, I actually had this download when I was at Dry Bar getting my prom hair done. And I wrote something out. It just like kind of came out of me, and it talked about like how the last 2 years were really hard for me, starting with the loss of my mom, starting this company and all the trials and tribulations, and how that has impacted my ability to show up with like my full power.
Yeah.
And like you see that even in my brand and in my content. And it's really hard it's hard to give when you're not on stable ground. And
Yes.
even when you're trying every day, like for me, every day I get up and I'm trying. I've got 3 young kids, I've got a husband, a business. So it's not for lack of trying, but sometimes when you're in a really bad, dark place, it's very, very difficult. And you really cannot give to your highest and best because you're just really trying to get
100%.
Yourself straightened out.
100%.
It's really tough. And I was sharing that because I'm kind of going to rebrand and put myself back. Like I only just now from the last 2 years feel like I'm myself again and that I have my power back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's so important for us to talk about, like, it's hard to show up when you don't have your power. It's hard to like give and be
When
the
you're
mom
empty.
you want. You're empty and you're fighting. And a lot of it comes from the grief. Like for me, a lot of it was triggered from my mom, but other things too. And I just have real compassion for that. Like it's really, really difficult. And it's funny going back to what you're saying too. Like when you're younger, you see adults as like knowing it all, having it all figured out. And like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing either. Pardon my French, but I mean, we can swear on this podcast, but it feels good to be back on solid ground and back in like my stride and like be able to have the power to give again. And I just think that what you're talking about is exactly that same idea.
It is the same idea. And I'll take it a step further. I feel like what helps me get out of my grief and get out of my head and take care of everything else is when I see someone else who is in a worse place than me and needs something. And once I'm like, oh, I can't, I'm on empty. There's no way I can't. And then when I'm like, wow, their shit hit the fan worse than me. And I can do 10 minutes, make a few phone calls, make a connection. And once I'm out of my own head and in that giving mode, even if it's 10 minutes,
it fills your cup up.
Yes.
1,000%. And they say that's like some of the best medicine, because like grief or depression, a lot of it is like, it's very right? It's all selfish. Like, and I don't mean that like to be disparaging, but it is. It's like you're wrapped up in your own shit.
Yeah.
And like, so to be able to be like, okay, this person's shit is worse than my shit and I need to do what I can for them. It takes you out of your own, story of sadness. And it does. It elevates your soul.
Yes. Even if it's counseling someone who went through what you went through.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's so true. And watching other people, like some of the people that I work with or clients of mine, they are in grief. Like one of my clients and friends, she lost her mom about 6 months after I lost mine. And in producing her podcast, we've been on a healing journey with her. And in watching her grow spiritually and find her voice and all of these things that come with just having your own podcast, like it's been incredible, unbelievable for my soul to be like, look at her, because I'm watching her growth. I'm watching her process. I'm watching her see her own and find her own self-worth, and meeting with these healers and things. And it's just, it really is. It's healing to help other people when you're down.
Yeah. And you're having a parallel experience with her because you lost your mom at such a close time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. What are some projects or things that you'd like to be doing sort of as you think of like the future of Maman? Like what do you want to tackle?
I don't know what I want to tackle. That's a big question.
Tell me your game plan.
I think I want to create a culture where people, where something like Maman exists, maybe in every state, in every city, where when someone has an idea, they have backing to make it happen. Like if someone says, for instance, I want to help, I don't know, foster kids or whatever, or this, or people who've fallen on hard times, that this platform is something that they could tap into and say, okay, we got you. Here's how you can do this.
Oh, I love that.
That's basically what we're doing at Maman.
So giving them the tactical,
Yeah.
because you and I know as founders that it's one thing to have an idea,
It's another thing to do it.
the execution
Yes.
is where it all falls apart.
So we've gotten good at executing.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long have you had the organization for?
Summer of 2022. It's almost as if
Wow.
it was set up right before October 7th for like
Right.
a huge launch.
Wow.
But people come up to us with ideas and say, we want to do this, like Holy Shah, the breast cancer initiative. I'm like, okay, we've got you covered. Go do it. We'll take care of your back end stuff.
Wow. So what does that look like from a practical lens? Like, what types of tools or
Okay, so-
resources can you provide?
So they can use our 501c3. That's what we did for Holy Shah. They're using our platform. We have access to a lot of people. Like I said, 500 active volunteers. People know us in the community already, so they trust us. So when she went out and she's like, okay, I'm going to put together a group, the women who have or had breast cancer, they feel comfortable and open because it's a part of Maman, and also because they know Jasmine, and they'll show up, and then we connect her with different organizations. Maybe Shared or whoever will help host a Shabbat dinner or a get together or a support group or a weekly meeting or different therapies or whatever it is that she wants to do.
Wow. And how do you communicate with your volunteers? I think that's really important.
So that's the hardest part. We started sending newsletters, but not everybody, I hate email. I ever
Yeah,
open
me
email.
too.
We also have a WhatsApp chat and then through Instagram. And a lot of people are DMing us.
Okay.
We've had like educational seminars for like moms on like different levels of parenting with different stages of kids. We've had spiritual stuff. We had things about like marriage classes and having relationships, getting to know yourself. We do lots of healing things like sound baths, animal therapy, and all of these things. We also have a component where the money's being raised to go towards someone or some like organization, or not an organization, a people or community in need.
Right. So everything you do, you're paying.
It's
it
a ripple
forward.
effect. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
One of the newer things that we got into, it's not so new, it's now 2 years ago, we connected with Patricia Heaton and her organization, which is the October 7th Coalition. And we've been working to unite Christians and Jews and creating dialogue, because I feel like that's something that was missing.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
everyone's in their own
Because
bubble.
it's dicey.
Yeah.
And you're not allowed to talk about a lot of these things because it's polarizing.
Yeah. So we opened those doors
Wow.
in a non-political way, and just
Right.
where do we meet?
Wow. How do you do that?
Well, it's been pretty awesome. We went into a few churches. We went into the Bel Air Church. We went to the Dream Center. We went to a few different churches and had unity events where we spoke about the rise of anti-Semitism for those who didn't know and what happened on October 7th. And we brought different speakers. We were at the Church of Compton last December, and it was so cool because they had a Jim Crow survivor, and we brought a Nova survivor and a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
And we were just talking about the effects of hate. And sometimes it's just not knowing the other group, you know, and you formulate whatever you formulate.
It's
and when
always not knowing the other group.
And when you humanize the other group, get to know them, you kind of burn those misconceptions and you create bridges. So we started doing that in different colleges. We started speaking in colleges about to Christian kids about whatever, uniting the Jewish and Christian communities, and speaking about our shared values, and speaking about whatever things that we have in common.
I was going to ask you, from that event with the Jim Crow survivor, Holocaust survivor, October 7th survivor.
We had 500 people at that event.
Wow. I would hypothesize, and I want to know, I would imagine that there was more themes of just a lot more common themes and experiences than anyone would have expected. Is that true?
Very, very, very true. Very true. And it was so beautiful. I had never been into a church before. And this was so cool to be in a Black church because it comes with their own culture.
Oh, yeah.
And they prayed over us. And it was so nice.
For sure.
And I feel like it's something that's like taboo almost. Like, we don't talk about God. We don't talk about prayer. We don't talk about, and then to be somewhere. And I came from that background where it's like, we don't talk about these things.
Right.
And then to be like welcomed and to speak on things that unite us and to feel love, it was really cool. It was really cool.
I can only imagine. And that's why like my experience going to church was, as a Jewish person, one of my best friends, very Christian, and I was living in the city at the time. And when my cousin, who was like my sister, when she was struggling and suffering through her breast cancer journey, I asked my friend, I said, can I come with you to church? I need to pray.
I love that.
Like when you are really in pain or you're going through something really hard, to feel like you're welcome in a house of God, whatever that house is, whatever the sign on the door has, whatever their way is, like it's a house of love.
Yes.
And that's why I said, like, I will literally go pray anywhere, whether it's in my car, whether it's at a church, a mosque, a temple, it doesn't matter to me, because when you need those, blessings and the energy and the support, you go into these communities, even if they don't feel like your own, and my experience has been that they surround you and wrap you up in a giant blanket of love.
I love that you experienced that.
And I will never forget it. Like, I will never, ever forget it. And I know a lot of people don't agree. I had friends the other day that they were like, oh, that's not how I was raised. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I don't judge people. I'm like, you do whatever you're comfortable with. But that's been my experience.
Do you know how I imagine prayer and how I explain prayer when I teach? When you pray, it's kind of like taking your outlet, your extension cord, and plugging it into the wall. You could plug it in anywhere.
1,000%.
Or like, have you seen the movie The Avatar?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember that tree?
Yes.
And they would, that's prayer. When you pray, you're connecting to tree, you're connecting to the source. Who cares where you're doing it?
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah. That's why I always say we're Jewish, but we're really spiritual. Like, I love my religion. It makes me feel connected to my ancestors because I know that they, sang these songs. Yeah. They, it feels like back home, like being home.
Yes.
And honoring them. And I think that's important. It also puts me on solid ground for a foundation, which is why I support all religion, because it's grounding for people. Yes. And it's values.
Yes.
But the reality is I really don't care about what the religion is. It's about the values. It's about the energy work. It's about all the things we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it's beautiful. I didn't realize that you had that relationship with the Kabbalah, and that's kind of infused in Maman. And I think it's beautiful.
Yes.
That's really beautiful. I love it. So how are your kids going to continue to participate as they're getting older? Because I just met your beautiful son, and he's young. I mean, he's 13.
He's 13.
So it sounds like you've been really teaching them so many great things. What level of involvement do you invite them? Like, because I'm sure,
I invite them. He came with me when we filled Floyd Mayweather's plane. I don't know if I mentioned that. We filled his plane 6 days after the attack.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a big deal. We just put out actually, that's a huge deal. I should mention it.
That is a huge deal.
Right after the war, literally the next day, everyone was like, what do we do? How can we help? My brother-in-law is Israeli, and he had a friend in the Ministry of Defense, and he gave us a list of what's needed. I'm like, we could send stuff. We're American. We could send stuff.
Right.
And literally gave us exact SKUs, everything. And we made an Amazon wish list that we blasted. And we started getting truckloads of shipments of items coming in. And we had 2 houses. One was my neighbor, Adina Finn, and the other one was Maya Sinai. And their houses turned into like assortment warehouses where they would receive the boxes, unload them, sort them, box them again, label the boxes, palletize them, make spreadsheets. And literally within 6 days, we had 2 tons.
That's 4,000 pounds
of requested gear, not like random blankets and like junk, things that were needed, tourniquets, whatever, supplies that they needed that we sent over to Israel. And we started doing that. We continued, and we started sending cargo boxes and, DHL, and we just kept on going and going. And by some miracle, nothing ever kept held up in customs. Everything went through. Everything would go directly in the hands of the people who needed it. We have a video of a Bedouin saying that the tourniquet that we sent saved a Bedouin child.
my gosh.
And I was like, wow, like these are moms. These are just moms in LA. Like I wasn't planning on doing this. I wasn't trained in nonprofit anything. You know, I'm a lawyer. I went to law school. This wasn't anything that I thought I would be doing. But when you want to do something, you'll do it.
1,000%. That is unbelievable. How did Floyd Mayweather, how did he get involved anyway? Like, isn't he out of Vegas?
I don't know where he is. I didn't even know who he was. It was just like a name of someone who had a plane. Like I was like, how do we get this stuff to Israel? And he had a plane. And then I was like, oh my God, he's like a huge deal.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. Apparently his manager or someone was Jewish. So he had like a connection to Israel.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
It's so interesting how unexpected people will step up.
Yes.
You know?
You know what else is crazy? How interconnected we are. How something that we do here, that like another thing. I met a girl who was Druze. Have you heard of the Druze community? Mm-mm. So the Druze community are a group of, I don't know if they're an ethno-religious group. They're a small minority. They live in Israel and in other Arab communities. And their community was attacked. The soccer fields, do you remember that? Mm-mm. A rocket hit their soccer field and killed 12 children, northern Israel, about a year and a half ago. And I happened to meet a Druze woman like 2 weeks before this rocket thing happened. The rocket thing happened and she's like, please, Sarah, I know you're able to help. Let's figure something out. Let's help. And we were able to send psychotherapists to go to the Druze community in Majd al-Shams in Israel every week for a year to help the grieving mothers and sisters. So my point in that is saying that we can do something here to help people across the world. Our world is small.
Right.
And when we actually care to do something, we can make a huge difference.
Yes. And you are.
Everybody can. I am right now. Yes, thank you. But everybody has the ability. So when people are like, oh, I can't do anything. What am I going to do? Think of something and fucking do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. You have inspired me. You really have.
You inspire me.
Oh, thank you. How can people join the movement of Maman? How can they support? How can they sign up to be a volunteer?
I would love that. Follow on Instagram. You can go on our website, sign up for our newsletter. Donations are always welcome. That's how we move the initiatives forward. If you want to join our WhatsApp group, you'll get more inside info on what's happening and how you can get involved.
Wow. Wow. We will link everything in the show notes. I certainly want to join in. And thank you for honoring your mom and what a testament you are to her.
Thank you.
Don't want to understate that enough. And just thank you for all the work you're doing. I mean, really, you're so selfless and genuine.
Thank you.
And a real inspiration for all of us.
Thank you, as are you.
Thank you. So, and you're also gorgeous. Her skin is insane, by the way. Her dad's a dermatologist. So great job to your dad as well. I need more tips. But everyone, thank you so much for watching on YouTube, listening, and please make sure you join in with Maman and give whatever you can, however it feels right to you. We will link everything for you in the show notes so you can participate. And thank you so much again, Sarah, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that is it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and be sure to follow us at Iconic Nation Media and send us a direct message and comment on some of our posts so that we can hear your feedback and incorporate them into our show. We appreciate you listening, and we look forward to catching you next week.